Hi, and welcome to another Scientology Outside of the Church podcast. This is episode 12, season 12, episode 17. And this one is going to be on RESPECT. Aretha Franklin said it best. That is what you mean to me. Sock it to me, sock it to me, sock it to me, sock it to me. And it's really the truth. And this is an overarching theme uh, on all dynamics, specifically now with the state of the planet and things that are going on. I think you'll find this very illuminating from a multitude of viewpoints, and we're going to look at it from a bunch of different angles. I'm here with Quentin Stroud. Quentin, how are you?
Hey, peace. I'm doing fantastic.
Great. Good to have you back after your little vacay in Southeast
Mm,
Asia, home away
yes,
from home and all that stuff.
working vacation. Yes.
Your working vacation, yeah. And we're going to get the ball rolling here. So basically, and as usual, Quentin will jump in and we'll bounce things off each other and everything. Basically, respect, it's not a vague social nicety. It's a measurable, in fact, measurable phenomenon rooted in awareness. And ARC and the ability to grant beingness, basically. So LRH did not use the word respect as a soft concept. So when you trace it through the technology, respect is fundamentally, and this is key here. I'm going to do what Quentin does. Hear me,
Hmm.
the willingness and ability to grant beingness to another terminal.
Yes.
Think about that for a second. The willingness and ability to grant beingness to another terminal. Are you or are you not willing to grant beingness to another terminal? Is a PC, a pre-clear, somebody getting auditing from an auditor, are they willing to grant that auditor beingness and let them put them at effect as the pre-clear? Like LRH says, at some point you have to audit out the auditing because a PC is at effect. And then you put them at cause, they go clear. Now they can take responsibility for their own case.
Hmm.
And they have to be able to be willing to, and I'll use the word in brackets, relent, turn authorship over to somebody else. And that's really what respect is. This is ARC in action. LRH says the ability to assume the viewpoint of another is the highest form of understanding. Do we see that today?
Mm.
Uh, Not really, especially in South
No.
Africa.
Well, I
uh,
think it's interesting that talking about it representing or showing up as a social nicety, and when we look at the various movements or the various uh, PC, I think that what's it called? Political
yeah.
correctness that's out there, and social veneer that's out there. You can tell when somebody is being genuinely understanding and being able to assume the viewpoint of another versus them just, putting it on as a social nicety. You know,
Mhm.
I respect such and such opinion, but you know, and it's like, no, that's not you're not really coming to an understanding. You're not really understanding the person. You're not granting the other person beingness. You're putting it on as a way of getting your point across. You know what I mean? So I
Right.
think it's really interesting how LRH put it there.
Yeah, that's really key. So we're gonna jump forward a little bit here, and we're gonna go over this in different sections from different viewpoints, as I mentioned a minute ago. So I'm going to turn it over to Quentin, and this is it's very, very important that we look at this from all of the different aspects of what respect granting beingness, because when somebody respects you, you feel it. It is
Mm,
palpable that
hmm.
somebody can be pan determined and take another viewpoint. And if you want to use non-Scientology's terms, maturity.
Yeah, yeah.
Go ahead, Quentin.
And being able to see it from that perspective. You know, I think I want to start with the personality test. And so when you go to our website ao-gp.org, there's a link on there that says personality test. It's the Oxford Capacity Analysis, and the idea here is that when a person completes the OCA or the personality test, you can plot exactly based on their own viewpoint, based on their own, nobody's evaluating for them, nobody's telling them what's wrong with them, that kind of thing. They're saying for themselves how they approach situations and circumstances in life, how they view the world, there's different things that they do. And so just starting with the personality test, right? You can use the personality test to predict how somebody's going to handle respect, whether it's in marriage, whether it's in business, which we actually do. Like we actually work with businesses, helping them get employees and people like that to give a better product, to produce a better employee and get somebody on their team in their group that is actually going to be more genuinely respectful and understanding of what it is that the business owner is trying to build or develop as an entrepreneur. And so when a person, if you look at the personality test, when a person is below certain points on the personality test, now I'm trying not to get too technical with it, but when a person is below certain points on the personality test, like they actually, they can shift into different parts of themselves or in different parts of how they approach life. And one who is trained, one who is aware of how to spot this, they can actually see in different areas how a person will respond. LRH was very, very good at, if you even look at the chart of human evaluation, was really, really good at plotting on how a person will respond to certain stimuli, certain responses, certain things in life. And the personality test, I believe, is where we should all start. If you really, if you trust the personality test, you might not want to get into bed with certain people. No pun intended.
Right. Well, a few of the points here, your A column regarding respect is looking through the lens of respect. A person who is plus 25 on the personality test or above is a stable person that maintains consistent respect uh, regardless of circumstances. An unstable person's respect fluctuates with their emotions. They
Catch
respect you
that.
Monday, that sort of thing. They respect you Monday, and by Thursday, their viewpoint has changed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really important. Uh, for their happiness, a happy person radiates respect naturally because people are like, hey, they've got their shit together. And they don't feel threatened by it. A depressed person, well, they're going to have collapsed self-respect and may either withdraw it from others or desperately seek it in most
Mm-hmm.
cases. So, you're looking at inflow versus outflow. What is respect? Respect is an outflow.
It's a float, yeah.
It's not an inflow. It's usually an outflow because you're having to look at the bigger picture. You're having to be pan determined. You're having to grant beingness to somebody. Granting beingness is not an inflow from you. It is from another person as their outflow
To you, yeah.
to you. And that's really important. Surround yourself with people who respect you.
Mm.
We've talked about this and I don't know how many podcasts before, and this is also something that can be handled on our Axiom AI on ao-gp.org. The free step is to find out, basically get the ball rolling on the correct be do have, not have do be. I have to have respect. Well, how are you going to have respect if you don't respect?
Right.
It's that simple.
You reap what
So
you sow.
right, reap what you sow. So column C, go ahead with column C, Quinn.
Yeah, so if a person, column C deals with composure, and if a person is composed, they don't need external validation to feel respected. So when we talk about respect being an outflow to another, granting beingness being an outflow to another, um, a person who is composed doesn't necessarily need external validation to feel respected. They will stay composed no matter what is being uh, uh, volleyed at them. whatever, no matter what's being thrown at them, because they have that level of composure. But when a person is closer down toward nervousness, that person will constantly monitor whether they're being respected or not. You, what you say to me? You looking at me? You talking to me? That kind of thing, or whatever, whatever. And they become very hyper vigilant in trying to spot when somebody is disrespecting them. And you can see that, you really see this, where I grew up in Alabama, you could really see this in certain parts of town, in certain areas, and certain people. It's like the slightest thing was the ultimate. You stepped on my new shoes, the ultimate disrespect, that kind of thing. And
Right.
but it was just an accident. I'm sorry, I was walking and I didn't see your big feet, but you you stepped on my new shoes and now I gotta shoot you, that kind of thing. But what ends up happening is when a person is really composed, respect it, they can stand in their selfhood. I don't know if I'm saying the right word, but they can stand in their selfhood without having to feel disrespected, no matter what's being volleyed at them. And that then takes us down to certainty, which is the D column, right? Because certainty versus uncertainty. Certainty on the D column, it talks about a person's like certainty of self. They naturally produce respect for themselves and others. When you're certain about who you are, when you're sure about who you are, you can stand in that selfhood, like I said a moment ago. But a person is closer down towards uncertainty produces doubt, suspicion, inability to grant beingness because they cannot grant it to themselves, to others. They can't grant it to others. And so what ends up happening is they can't receive it as well. And that creates this level of uncertainty in them.
Right. And one of the things with the personality test is if you have traits that are above your certainty, then they are almost obligatorily compulsive. So, a person could communicate and they have certainty, but their communication is above their certainty. So then you start to get into, depending on where the rest of the graph is that y- they want to talk you to death about how certain they are. And
Right.
that's not necessarily respect either. Then we get to the E column. How aggressive is the person? Respect, uh, uh, to me, respect is a 50-50 when it comes to being aggressive. If you're too aggressive, you're lacking respect for that person,
Yeah.
talking over them. Then
Putting
you
them
get to
down.
the CDEI scale, and you're at a enforced type of a thing. And then you want to be curious on the CDEI scale. At a minimum, above that is understand and then know. And if you're at no on your if you'll excuse the term aggressivity, you know how aggressive you need to be to have again, to grant somebody else beingness, to be respectful. But you have all these other monitoring things going on in the personality test, and then you get to uh your F column. So the
Well,
person.
I want to say something on that because I think that's
Sure.
really important. Because you know, and I try to look at these because I believe that independent Scientology is a practical philosophy, spiritual philosophy. And so when I look at this, when you're dating someone, right? When you're dating someone, genuinely, generally, you start out at curious, right? You're really curious, you're really interested, or whatever, whatever. And as that interaction continues, as that interaction evolves, the person moves somewhere on that scale, CDEI scale, whatever, whatever. The person moves somewhere on that scale. The ideal scene, the ideal state is to stay at curious, right? No matter what shows up, no matter what comes down the pike, no matter what comes out, you want to stay at curious. You're dating. Dating is about discovery, right? And so you're trying to get to know this person. And so this person tells you something from their sordid past or whatever case may be. Now you can do whatever you want to do with the information, but what I'm suggesting is that at curious, when you if you're able to be there, no matter what comes through, no matter what comes out, you can still respect the individual. Does that make sense?
Right.
Like, man, such and such happened to me in my past, and my mama did this, and my daddy did that, and I'm blah 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 blah. You know what? I got that. Thank you for sharing that story with me. That must have been difficult for you, or however you want to approach it. But you can still respect the person. Now, whether or not you guys end up together, or you feel like you want to move forward with it or not, that's irrelevant. But the point is about being able to respect the person no matter what. If you have a good OCA, if you have a good personality test, and you're at some of those higher numbers in those the acceptable range, you really can respect another person. You can grant beingness to them. You can actually understand them, right? Without this false sense of empathy, or whatever. It's like, no, I got it. I totally understand. And nothing changes about your viewpoint on that person. So I think
Hmm.
that's really important what you said there about the CDEI scale. Yeah.
Yeah, and that leads us back to how active or inactive the person is. That they demonstrate respect through the OCA, through production and contribution. Um, that's exchange. What products are you getting? What products are you? And this is very important in granting beingness. What other products is the person getting? What other
Mm.
products is the organization getting? What
So
products
important.
do they produce? And what are your statistics? That's activity,
Yep.
and that goes hand in hand with your GH columns, your responsibility and your correct estimation as regards respect. Somebody who is irresponsible isn't going to have respect. If they're below, I'm going to say below plus 25 all the way down to negative 99. There's no responsibility there in giving respect because they don't respect themselves because of their
Right,
own overts, their own withholds. And then
bro.
that, go ahead.
Listen, and we know this to be true almost innately. Like, when you look at somebody and they ain't got no product, they not producing nothing, they're not doing anything active, they just sitting around, and I, I was about to say something else. They just sitting around doing nothing. They're not really active. Just naturally, you can't really respect that person in that light, right? In that man, from that perspective, you don't really respect that. Like, even if you retired, or even if you whatever, my grandma used to always say, "Baby, do something. Don't do nothing. Do something." She used to say it all the
Right.
time. And so you can respect the person doing something. You can respect the person really getting a true product out and bettering the world. Even if you just creating a beautiful lawn, and beautiful grass, and beautiful uh garden or whatever. Like, you can respect something. You can't respect nothing.
Right. And that responsibility goes hand in hand
Hmm.
with correct estimation. Huge,
Yes.
huge. Correct estimation ties directly into, do you have an admin scale? Have you
Hmm.
read the data series and what the definition of sanity is? The ability to recognize similarities, differences, and identities. That has everything to do with respect. That is sanity. To the degree that a person can't see what's going on in front of them, which is literally no on the CDEI scale. I don't see anything, must not be there. No, you
Hmm.
just you just aren't aware of it. That's what the awareness scale is on the grade chart. And when you have people who cannot grant somebody beingness because it's like, well, just no, and
Hmm.
or refused is below that on the CDEI scale as well. Just
Hmm.
refused. Okay, so your powers of observation with somebody on a low GNH column on the OCA, can you give respect? No. And like you said earlier, choosing your people wisely is what this is about right now as far as respect. Granted, you can't get everybody to do an OCA, but if you're aware of these concepts that we're delineating
Shoot.
to you as a listener, I mean, bro, come on.
Listen, if you messing with me, I'm talking about me now. I can't talk about you. I can talk about me. You
Right.
listen. Sit down. Take these questions right here. It's just 200. I'll go make you some tea. You want some tea?
Right. Here's my phone. Go to al-gp.org, fill this out. We'll get your graph and we'll talk.
Listen, I'm telling you, anybody dating anybody, please get an OCA. Please get a personality test done. I'm
Mhm.
begging you because
As
it
as
will
a
change your life.
yeah, first order of business.
Yeah.
And it's sort of that will they sign the prenup? If they don't want to do a personality test and they don't and we've talked about this in other podcasts about contractual agreements and everything, how you are when you pick a significant other yourself, Quentin.
Uh huh.
I got something I want you to read because that's part of the admin scale policy,
Yes.
policing. Okay, this is part of your policy of being able to surround yourself with people who respect you.
Yep.
If they won't allow you, and they can say, what about this section 5 article 4 here? I'm not sure about. Okay, well, let's discuss. Okay, we could possibly make an amendment to that, but I need to see your OCA first. It's a bit of a feedback loop,
Yes.
but it's a positive feedback loop because the thing is like we've talked about in other podcasts, where's the person at on the tone scale? How do they interpret communication?
Mhm.
You that, and just for our new listeners, somebody says, nice shoes, and a person low on the tone scale is going to go, what did you mean by that? A
Right.
person higher on the tone scale is going to go, oh, thank you, I really appreciate that, I got those at Dillard's last week.
Hmm.
That is an interpretation of communication based off the tone scale. And this feeds right back into the communication column on the OCA, which is super important. So that basically comes down to a person who can correctly, like we were just talking about, es- estimate their effort, situations, respect the reality of what things take. A hypercritical person, they're going to disrespect everyone and their
Yeah.
efforts because nothing is ever good enough.
Right.
Let me say that again. Nothing is ever good enough. That's not respect. They're fixed at 2.0 on the tone scale as their chronic social tone level at best. At best. That's not respect. Somebody who's higher in communication, okay, well, now you're much higher on the tone scale. Communication, ARC, and you, knowledge, responsibility, control, and power are going to be in a much better state. Now, to wrap up this aspect of respect as far as the OCA goes, it's important, very, very important, that you could use the OCA in predicting how someone will handle their respect towards you. Okay. So in marriage, business, a group, a person below the line on most traits, they're not going to be able to maintain genuine respect for others because they have not gotten enough case gain to respect themselves. That's awareness. So we're going to continue on to the next one, and that is the tone scale. Go ahead, Quentin.
Yeah. So obviously, if we're talking about like the CDEI scale and we're talking about um, the OCA, you're also looking at how or where a person falls on the tone scale. And when you can and you we've all felt this before. If you met a person down at 1.5 in anger, right? Destruction is respected, right? A person at 1.5 destroys what they cannot control. They try to disrespect anything and everything because it's a threat, right? And so they cause this barrage of disrespect. They levy a barrage of disrespect because they're low on the tone scale, right? But then you deal with a person who's up near enthusiasm, up near cheerfulness, right? Where they're granting beingness easily, right? They're seeing others as capable and operating with high ARC. They're respecting others' efforts and what they're trying to accomplish, what they're trying to do. And it doesn't come across as a threat to them, right? It doesn't come across as a threat to them because they themselves are uptoned. They themselves are doing what they do. You know what I'm saying? And so when you're looking at a person and when you're evaluating or considering somebody to be a part of your third dynamic, a part of your second dynamic, a part of your life, right? really get a moment to look. Like, look, don't listen, because they're gonna tell you a lot. They're gonna say
Mm-hmm.
some wonderful things. Oh, it's beautiful. Oh, it sounds so good. Sounds so wonderful. And
Mm-hmm.
yet, look, don't listen, because that will definitely change the way you see it if you really take a look at what's going on.
Exactly. Now, it like at boredom, for example, on tone scale, which is 2.5,
Hmm.
you get some of a hollowness. It's a I do not disrespect you. I just don't care.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so that's that line, that little dotted line in the sand there. And then you go down to anger. They're going to destroy what they cannot control. They disrespect you and everything that is a threat at anger. And
Yeah.
then if we go down further to apathy, 0.05, no concept, literally no concept of respect exists. They don't have self respect for themselves, so how can they respect other people? So you have a complete collapsing of the dynamic, the first dynamic. And
Hmm.
it's literally the truth that you can diagnose a person's chronic tone level by watching how they handle respect,
Yeah.
giving it, receiving it, and taking it.
Well, and I think also at covert hostility, like, and we probably have met somebody at this space, whether it be an old roommate or whether it be an old lover or something like that, or whatever. Met somebody in this dangerous zone of covert hostility, because at 1-1, a person pretends to respect you, but they're undermining your efforts. They're undermining the things that you're trying to create or trying to do. Right? They're they're there with you, because a person typically at 1-1 is like a parasite, so they kind of leech on to other people, but they're there with you, but it's a false deference. They say they're respectful of you, they say they're respectful of your opinions, but they're really using it as a weapon against you. Right?
Hmm.
The respect is weaponized as a control mechanism. And this is where backstabbing, gossip, betrayal, all of that stuff lives, where they don't keep your confidentiality. They don't make you hold, or allow you to hold your beingness. And I think that's what we was talking about earlier, that true respect is being able to grant beingness to someone, right? That's true respect, ability and
Hmm.
willing to grant beingness. A person at 1-1, they will give you the impression that you're safe, give you the impression that this is fine, this is cool, but no, it's not. And so, definitely using the tone scale, you can literally diagnose a person's tone level and see where they are. I think it's powerful.
Right. And only if you agree to their terms. And they tend to deal in backstabbing, gaslighting, gossip, and betrayal.
Hmm.
That's what lives there. As
Cabal.
far, yeah, cabal. Respect is it ain't happening, bro. So let's go and take a look at the axioms themselves. This will be pretty quick. For axiom one, life is basically a static. This is very apropos given axiom AI that we're using on our website. The static has no mass, no motion, no wavelength, no location in space or time. When you truly respect someone, you are acknowledging the static. Super important.
Yes.
The thetan, not the body. It doesn't
Hmm.
matter whether they're male or female, whether they're black, red, white, yellow, green. The thetan doesn't
Hmm.
have anything to do with gender orientation or anything else.
Right.
So
and,
it's
and, and
not
even and even personality, to be honest with you, even personality,
sure.
even scripture says the Lord is no respecter of persons. It's not about the personality. You're looking at this individual as a being surviving, doing the best that being can do to be that being. And when you can respect someone, you can apply axiom AI in life. Like, this is not just some weird, like, arbitrary thing that LRH talked about with Axiom 1. Life, when you see life as basically a static, that then becomes your viewpoint of life, of people, of experiences, of individuals. And it's like, man, you know what? I, 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 I don't necessarily agree with what went down or the way things went down, but I do respect you as a being. and I can see that you are trying to be do the greatest good for the greatest number of dynamics for the greatest period of time if that's what you're doing, or you're trying to survive, or you're trying to be, and the respect factor comes in as a static. At least have that. At least let's do that. You know what I'm saying? Because
Hmm.
because because with axiom one, you see a being. If that makes sense, you
Right.
see a being.
You don't have any arbitraries in the way. You're looking past the body, you're looking past their reactive mind, the social veneer, and you're recognizing cause to be able to
Hmm.
grant them beingness, to have respect. And
Yeah.
just as a social commentary, that is what is lacking, that has gotten us into what the planet is currently embroiled in
Yeah.
and on here on Saturday, March 7th, 2026, is there is no respect for human life, for human religious viewpoints, for what they have or what they don't have. Or they
Right.
have water, they don't have water, they don't have food, they have this missile, or they have, and it's absolutely the opposite of respect on the fourth dynamic and for all dynamics of individuals on both sides, which brings us to axiom 10. Respect at its core is acknowledging somebody's ability. So, and that is the right to create effects. Disrespect is fundamentally an invalidation of that ability. Think about that for a minute. It is an invalidation of that ability. It says you cannot cause, you can only be affected upon. That's suppressive by definition. Hear me. That is suppressive by definition. Just because you are of a religious viewpoint, or just because you have an organization that is getting products, you are being invalidated for causing that effect. And LRH talks about this as to how auditors and creative personalities, thetans, are the first ones to be suppressed by suppressive personalities, because the suppressives don't believe in help because they can't grant others beingness. They have no respect for them because they're, as we said earlier, lower on the tone scale. Axiom 28, Quentin.
Yeah, so Axiom 28 deals with communication, right? And the communication formula. And obviously, when you're communicating with someone, or the ability to communicate with someone, right, is that consideration and action of impelling an impulse from source point to receipt point with intention and attention to bring about duplication at the receipt point and understanding. Respect then has to be embedded in that communication formula. Because if you don't respect someone enough to even intend duplication, you're not really communicating. You're dramatizing. If you don't think about that. If you don't respect someone, and many of us have had these kind of conversations, many of us have had these with people, you're not really trying to understand me. You're not really trying to get to allow me to be duplicated on the other side of that receipt point, of this cause point. I'm trying to get my communication across, but you're not willing to duplicate me, and
Right,
that is not respectful. That is not
right,
respect. And nor are you even communicating with me. You're dramatizing something out valence. You're dramatizing some overt or withhold. You're dramatizing something because you don't even want to hear me. You don't even
right.
want to
Where's
hear my viewpoint.
right? Where's that on the CDEI scale? No and refused.
Mm,
You can't
they don't.
communicate. We refuse your communication. I will not grant you beingness. I will not grant you respect. Dramatization.
Period.
Hmm.
Please hear me, because when these things happen, and I want you guys to know, especially as independent Scientologists, I want you to know what's going on in your life. This is what Scientology is, the ability to know how to know. I want you to know what's going on in your life. Stuff is happening all the time. And when you don't have the tech, when you don't think with the tech, you become the adverse effect of that thing that you don't take responsibility for and don't know about. It
Yep.
just happens to you. Man, I don't know why she was talking to me like that. I don't know why he was treating me that way. Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
What? Could,
Read it.
right.
Go look at the
Right.
book.
Right. What could you be responsible for? Well, I don't know. Okay, you're going to have to get in communication with your own unawareness. And that brings us to axiom 38, which isn't here, but that is the correct time, place, form, and event. That is, wait for it, auditing. Is you're getting the person to look at something that they're unaware of because of their withholdingness. So how can they communicate about anything to anyone if they're not even aware of something that they're blind about?
Right, right. Or they're withholding, and they're withholding, and so therefore they can't ever really be duplicated because they're not really speaking in time, place, form, and event. They're not speaking in truth. And so
Right.
what ends up happening is they're speaking in alter isness, and alter isness is the keynote of all destruction per LRH. And so like with this way that you're trying to share with me, you're telling me something, but there's some alter isness somewhere, right? And because there's no time, place, form, and event, there's alter isness. What ends up happening is I can never really understand. I can't really get what's happening right now, right? And we see this with dramatization. Have you ever been in an argument with somebody or been in a discussion with your 2D or somebody, whatever, and you could tell this is dramatizing, like something's different here, something's off, and it's like they're dramatizing something, and you can't understand it from their perspective. You can respect them as a being, axiom one, but I don't get what's happening right now. What's going on? It's
Hmm.
because they're dramatizing and they're out time, place, form, and event. Something's not clear to you, and therefore you can't get it as isness until you do. And with good communication, with the good ability to be able to, pull with holes and pull over, if you know how to do this stuff, being a good independent Scientologist, being a well trained individual, you can pull this stuff and you can be like, oh, that's where it is.
Hmm.
And literally, I'm telling you what I know. I've seen the entire situation change. I've seen the whole face and the whole disposition of an individual brighten up because you finally got the time, place, form, and event of what really happened and why they feel the way they feel. I just feel some kind of way. Why? Where's that coming from? What's going? You can pull it. You understand?
Hmm.
And that's what auditing does. I'm telling you, Action 38, time, place, form, and event, that's exactly what we need in getting some full clarity and understanding on things.
Right. Because the only reason something persists per the axioms is that there's a lie behind it that
Yep.
hasn't been spotted. And
Yep.
that is an unknowingness. And if you haven't done your due diligence and you just take information on the internet, Facebook maybe, uh, no pun intended, as genuine information without doing your own due diligence and looking and perceiving, being pan determined and looking at both sides. It's like the National Enquirer. Elvis is still alive. It's 2026. He's a preacher in the deep South. Okay, come on. How old would Elvis really be today?
How would he be? I don't know.
He'd be in his fucking 90s. Give me a
Okay.
fucking break. But people are so unaware that they believe what they see because it's on the internet, it's true
Right.
type of a thing. And this comes down to axiom 51, postulates and live communication. This is one of your favorite ones, by the way. Do you want to
Yes.
do it? Or do you want me to?
No, you can do it.
Okay. So that means that you're not being matter, energy, space, and time. Stop thinking in bodies. Stop thinking in mess. How many toys do they have? I can respect them that they have toys. Some of the poorest people on the planet have the best beingness, have earned the most
Mhm.
respect. Your little granny around the corner and everything are full of information and experiences that you can get if you'll only listen, and you'll get into a conversation with them by granting them beingness and finding out for yourself. So, not being messed and being senior to messed, again, matter, energy, space, and time, not being a body, not judging them by what they have or don't have or the way they look or the color of their skin, you can accomplish change without bringing about a persistence. Okay. The, that's all auditing is about, is built on respect. The auditor respects the PC's ability to, as is, look at something for what it is. They've come in and they're going, "Oh, my Zort hurts." Okay, okay. I'm gonna give you a process. What does this mean to you? Thank you. Okay, we got to read on that. Okay, good. I'm gonna run the process. Here you go. You ready? All right. Boom. And I'm shortening for brevity's sake. Okay,
Oh, okay.
without that respect, no auditing occurs. You don't respect me as an auditor. You don't respect Joe as an auditor. You don't respect Quentin as an auditor. You don't respect Dorica as an auditor. The train never leaves the station. You have to
Mm-hmm.
let control go and go, hey, you know what? This person knows what they're doing. I've paid them good money to do this. I need to be able to grant them respect because they're granting me respect in the fact that I'm here for a reason and I need help. Otherwise, why are you here? Why did you
Right.
get into Scientology in the first place? You got into Scientology in the first place because there was something you wanted handled and you were at least aware of that, or you wouldn't have never looked at the subject at all. So the auditor at that time, okay, now you may receive this one way because of your current tone level, or you may receive it another, but I'm going to say it anyway. The auditor who at that time knows best based off of LRH information applied correctly,
Mm-hmm.
hear me, applied correctly, or why are you hiring them in the first place? Then the PC violates the auditor's code and gets no, wait for it, results. That's called a
Right.
hidden standard. That means you're a potential trouble source. LRH
Mm-hmm.
says this. We don't. Okay. Did my headache get better? That's a hidden standard.
Mm.
Because if you're there and interested in your own case and willing to talk to the auditor, game on. We can do
That's
something
it.
for you.
Yeah. Let's play.
Yeah, let's play. If you can't do that, don't waste your time. Don't waste our time. Don't waste LRH's time. And, people come to me and say, well, what about this and what about that? Here's the reference. Take it up with LRH.
Well, and the other thing is, and again, I say I've seen when I talk about miracles for when we talk about miracles for breakfast, I've seen how this plays out. I've literally had someone recently contact me and was having such tremendous pain in her body, her joints, her knees, her arms, her back, her head, everything, and literally with just with about an hour and 2 minutes, in fact, sat down and talked to her and just pulling those with live communication and postulates, Axiom 51, by pulling those things and getting some as isness on her own case, her own bank, not evaluating for her, not telling her what she needs to do, not going to the doctor and the doctor said that I need to, just literally pulling the stuff that needs to be pulled, getting her some as isness on there. She messaged me this morning, said, "Wow, I woke up exactly at the time I was supposed to wake up, and my alarm didn't even go off." She said, "My body feels so good. It feels so refreshed. I have no pain in my body." She said this within 24 hours. Okay, when we talk about this stuff and we talk about how auditing works and how getting yourself in session and getting yourself to pull out this stuff that's in there keeping you down, there is a level of respect, I believe, and I'm just going to say this from my own viewpoint. There's a level of respect and honor. I'll even use the word reverence. I like that word too.
Mm-hmm.
There's a level of reverence that goes along with somebody who is a highly trained and knows what they're doing to help people. I'm telling you, because this stuff works. And if you are able to help people with this, please get trained. If you really want to help people, get trained. If you really want to help people, I've seen it happen over and over and over again. People come with all these wild cognitions and realizations, and they just laugh, and you can see their whole face just light up, and then they better for it. So
Right.
respect is a fundamental key of auditing itself because it allows the person to be who they are. This is granting beingness. It allows the person to be who they are, but really be who they are, not out valence, not somebody else's valence, not some dramatization of a winning valence, not that. Be who you are. And that's going back to axiom one, respecting a person as a Thetan.
Right. And, suppressives, they don't believe in help. They don't
Yep,
believe anybody can be helped. They want to stop people who are helping. Let me
that's
repeat.
right.
They want to stop people who are helping and will misrepresent, omit, change time, contrary facts, out sequence, hide the facts. That is not granting beingness to
And,
themselves, let
hide
alone somebody
themselves.
else. Yeah, right. Now, and that brings us to the code of honor. Never
Yes.
desert a comrade in need, in danger, in trouble. Respect
Hmm.
in action. You don't abandon people when it gets hard. Disrespect is is basically conditional loyalty at the end of
Hmm.
the day. Never desert a group to which you owe your support. Respect for the third dynamic. The person who bails when things get rough has no respect for the group or what it's trying to accomplish. We see this all the time between friends, lovers, you name it, groups, is when the going gets rough, bye. That's disrespect for themselves and disrespect for others. Never fear to hurt another in a just cause is another one. Real respect is not psychophancy.
Yeah.
Sometimes respect means telling someone the truth that they don't want to hear. Quentin does it
Hmm.
all the time.
Hmm.
I do it all the time.
Hmm.
Arthur does it all the time. It, you know, you have to be able to have somebody else's viewpoint. That is granting beingness. That is self determinism and then pan determinism. Go ahead,
Well,
Quentin.
and it puts aside social veneer, right? Because when you're afraid to bring that mirror in front of somebody and say, hold on a second, out of respect, now with respect, say, hold on a second, let's really talk about what's really happening here, right? And Arthur is amazing at this. I wish he was here to talk about it. But really saying, let's talk about what's going on. Let's talk about this, holding that mirror up and setting aside social veneer and really dealing with it. Because if not, what ends up happening is people can crash, right? And that's not
Hmm.
respect. You don't just let a friend desert a friend. You don't just let a person crash and burn. You help them up, right? You help them up. And so when you respect another, you're not going to desert them. You're not going to hurt. You're not going to be afraid to pull that mirror up in front of them if it's the right thing to do. And that's the beautiful part about it. And
Hmm.
so what we're getting across to you here, especially as you go throughout life, as you go throughout this wog world, right? And you deal with these individuals who are dramatizing valences and cases and all this other stuff or whatever. Like, be okay with saying what is. Be okay with saying what's true. Time, place, form, and event. Be okay with saying what is, holding that mirror up and saying, wait a minute, there's some other stuff that's not being talked about here, right? And
Hmm.
what that does is that actually shows I respect the the greater good, for the greatest dynamic, for the greatest period of time. I respect the greater good, and I'm going to keep this truth intact.
Right. And then that brings us to the ultimate statement of self respect. Your self determinism and your honor are more important than your immediate life. You
Yes.
don't sell your integrity to survive. The Thetan is senior to the body. Thetan, mind, body. And you don't compromise with your own reality. Your self respect means trusting your own observations. A person, for example, the person who's constantly defers to authority over their
Hmm.
own perception. Well,
Right.
That's what Donald Trump said, but I don't know that I necessarily disagree. But okay, he's the president, and well, he's the president. I guess that's how it has to be. Has lost self respect. Sorry, I don't mean to be political. I'm not taking sides. It's just an
Yeah,
example.
it's the point. Yeah.
And who's the person that's lost their self respect is on the way down.
Well, and any news, really, for that matter, any news, because what ends up happening is it's still somebody else's reality, it's still somebody else's viewpoint, and so not compromising with your own reality means you trust your own observations, what the due diligence that you've done, the clarity that you've sought out and decided that you want to have for yourself, and with that, then you proceed. But if you just trusting somebody's word for it because somebody said it, somebody put it out there on social media, whatever. If you just trust somebody's word for it and you don't do your own due diligence, you're compromising your own reality. And that's and let me be clear, the code of honor is not something that can be enforced. So nobody's in any way saying that this is something that you have to do when it comes to the
Is
code of honor. But
right.
when you look at it, when you really look at it, it is a code of self-respect. and granting respect and beingness to others. And to that end, I love the code. I personally try to live by the code of honor. I love it because it makes so much sense when you really break it down.
Yeah. And that's the code of honor is self-determined. It's
Yeah.
not other determined. And it's important to note that respect is coerced, enforced on the CDEI scale is not respect. It is obedience. And you have to look, don't listen, look,
Hmm.
LOOK. And obedience without understanding is just another form of slavery on the tone scale at the end of the day.
Hmm.
Period.
Hmm.
That means you have to be true to your own goals. If you don't respect your own purposes, no one else either will.
No, as well. Yeah.
Purpose is senior to mechanics. That's why purpose is second on the admin scale.
That's so good.
Goals, purposes. You got to be your own advisor, keep your own counsel, and select your own decisions. Respect for
Well,
yourself is being capable of evaluation and decision. That's awareness. This does not mean ignoring input. It means you are cause. Sometimes
hmm
you have to take advice, not just listen to it.
and I want to go back to that purpose is seen to mechanics thing because I think it's so powerful when you're true to your own goals. Again, do you have an admin scale? Like what are you doing here with Axiom AI? We literally that's one of the first things that we wanted people to start to put in place is get an admin scale so you know what your goals are, you know what your purposes are, you know what your policies are. Like you have these things in place and you're able to live in accordance with your own goals. The only reason why one of the biggest things that we have really been talking to people about is getting an admin scale out and in and done and aligned with alignments and stuff like that is because we want to make sure that you're being true to your own goals and you understand that purpose is senior to the mechanics of it, the whole mechanism, the whole thing it plays out, the whole way it unfolds. You got to have a true purpose in all this. Even when it relate in relationship, why are you in that relationship? Because I just don't want to be alone. I just don't want. I want a companion. I want to be by myself. Hmm. Hmm. I don't know if y'all can. I don't know if y'all can hear my sigh of
Yeah.
disapproval, but I'm joking. But what's the purpose of this? What are we doing this for? You understand? And if you really can have that in place per your admin scale, if you can really have that in place, the mechanics will work themselves out. You can work out the statistics. You can work out the orders and the plans and the programs and the projects. You can work all that stuff out because we have purpose here. We're in this thing for a reason. We doing
Mm-hmm.
this thing. We doing it right this time. We gonna get it right, baby. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
You've
Right.
had these conversations before. Listen, but if you with somebody who they don't got the same purpose as you, they not on the same purpose, baby. It's a
Right.
shit
And
show.
yeah, and it's important to note that the tools, the corporate church had these tools. They were sitting there in the OAC volumes for decades and
Collecting dust.
collecting dust. And we realized that if you take somebody in session and they've got shit going on in their life and they're cheating on their significant other and they're doing dumb stuff and all this stuff, okay, their goals are whacked,
Right.
for lack of a better term, and I'm using more street vernacular than I am professional vernacular. And sometimes you can't even get people to look at an admin scale and do it properly. Sometimes you have to go back to what we're talking about respect and self respect. I want to have a
Self-respect.
house, I want a nice car, I want two kids, and I want an obedient wife. Okay. Okay. And she better be pregnant and barefoot and in the kitchen. Uh, and so, okay, so our first volume has to do. This is a precursor to doing the admin scale in Axiom AI. You approach it from the viewpoint of almost everybody on this planet. I want to have this and I want to have that. Okay,
Yeah.
but how are you going to get there? You got to have a
Mm.
plan. And that means you got to have respect for yourself. It's not have, do, be. We talked about this so much over the last several years. We get you to look at what you need to be to respect yourself so that you have power. It's a two terminal universe. Okay, if you don't have a stable point of reference of who you need to be, you can't do an admin scale.
Ain't that ugly?
It's ugly and beautiful at the same time. It's a weird dichotomy.
Mm.
And that has everything to do with respect. And that brings us to the ARC triangle. So affinity, most people listening to this probably you're steeped in independent Scientology concepts, independent Dianetics concept. Respect requires a willingness to occupy the same space as another.
Yeah.
Can you occupy? You're a white Boer here in Africa. Okay, that's the so-called rich elite looking from the African side of it and everything. They don't respect them, and for good reason. But that's because there's no respect back. You had apartheid that happened here, all of this stuff, and so there's no respect. So you don't. It cancels it out. I don't respect you. You don't respect me. You got to have affinity first. And that requires pan determinism to look at things from both sides. Are things better here? No, they're not better after apartheid was ended. Now it's more corrupt than ever. The infrastructure's falling apart. The water's off for days. The electricity's off for days. It's as corrupt can be because there's no respect
Mm.
for other people that are in bodies, and the color doesn't mean anything. It's just look what you did to me. Motivator, 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 motivator. Withhold, withhold, withhold. No affinity allowed because of those withholds. So, at least to some
Yeah.
degree, you cannot respect someone if you refuse to be near, listen to, or acknowledge. You know how hard it is for me to get people to look me in the eye as in a white body here because they've been so
Mm.
disrespected
Yeah.
by a white body, or vice versa, that the
Mm.
A is completely gone. And that brings us to reality. Respect requires shared agreement. What's the reality? Hey, you know what? We're on a prison planet together. Maybe we should work together and stop fucking each other around. Duh.
Let's start there.
Let's
can
start
we
there.
can we just start that we on the same planet?
Right. At a minimum, an agreement that the other person has a right to their viewpoint, whatever it is. If
Right.
you're pan determined and you're granting them beingness, it doesn't matter what their viewpoint is. It's just that you understand it, which we'll get to in a minute. So a person who says your reality is wrong has no reality with you or them,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
therefore no respect. Over to
Right.
you on communication and understanding, Q.
Well, and the truth of the matter is that when you're dealing with a person who cannot fully duplicate you, cannot communicate, and because they're not communicating, they're not going to understand you. They're not going to build that affinity with you. And so when we talk about respect, what we're looking at is how you can spot these moments, these outpoints so clearly where you don't get sucked into this what we now the proper term is gaslighting, altruism,
Right.
this thing of change,
Lie.
change, change, lie, 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 deceit, deceit, deceit. What happens is that when a person is not able to fully duplicate you, when they're not able to understand you, when they don't want to have ARC with you, there is a lie somewhere. Let me tell you something. Somebody asked me recently. They were like, "Oh, you still talk to your ex?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah. I talked to all but one of my exes, and that's because the ex racked up a whole bunch of overts against me. But I do because I don't have any withholds against my ex, right? I don't
Right.
have any withholds, and so what happens is that if I can still share space with you, if I can still have ARC with you, if I can still communicate with you, that there's a way to keep things respectful. Hear the word respectful. Don't mean I want to be back with you because I don't. Okay, let me be clear. But but I can respect you. I can axiom one you, right? I can see you as a thing, as a being, and I can respect who you are and who you're trying to be, even though you might have made some mistakes. That's not the point. The point is about granting beingness. And get this, and when you're able to do it enough, when you're able to grant beingness enough, you actually unlock your power of choice.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to hear this. LRH did a whole lecture on it. I did a whole Sunday service about this. Power of choice is wrapped up in granting beingness. And when you can grant beingness enough, you are actually free. The reason why I'm not mired about the exes and all the stuff in the past and da da da, because I can grant beingness. I can grant beingness. I'm free, baby. Trust me, I'm free. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
when you go up the bridge and you're doing the lower grades. I did the whole Sunday service about the lower grades. When you do the lower grades, you're getting those grades off. Boom, 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 boom. You're knocking them out. What you're doing is that you're becoming more pan-deterministic. The lower bridge is all about self-determined. The upper bridge is about pan-determinism. You dealing with all that stuff on the self-determined level so that you can become more pan-determined. When I went clear, and Jonathan helped me go clear. When I went clear, and Jonathan said, "Okay, go ahead and do the next step on the wrong or whatever," and I went out. I think it's called Sunshine. It's called Sunshine right now, right?
Yeah.
And I went out, and man, I came back and I said, I can totally see people, and I can have them. I use the word empathy, but it was genuine empathy. I was
Mm-hmm.
crying. I was crying with the amount of beauty in seeing people walk down the sidewalk and seeing people like I was crying. It was that beautiful to me. And so I'm giving you this because I want you to understand that respect, the penultimate of respect, is the ability to grant beingness. And with good communication, with good ARC, with true understanding and duplication, you can do that. And you can have that. But it takes somebody being willing and able to grant beingness. That's what respect is all about.
Mm-hmm. So, with understanding, when you've got all three ARC, that makes understanding.
Hmm.
Understanding is the highest form of respect. Just to sort of recap what you said, LRH said
Yep.
the only thing that could resolve problems between people and groups was raising ARC. That is raising respect for one another. So, to kind of tie all this together, your self respect comes first. You can't grant beingness to others if you have not granted it to yourself. Handling your own case, getting auditing, doing your conditions, doing an admin skill, finding out who you are, your beingness, your doingness, your havingness. You can do that with Axiom AI at your own pace, okay? Without
Yeah.
bias, without rumor, without case,
Without
uh,
personalities.
without personalities involved. It's miraculous. And we get success stories literally every day
Yes.
from
Daily they
Axiom
come in.
AI. That helps you form your own self-respect in Scientology terms. Using You can also use respect as a diagnostic. Start observing others, respect patterns in people around you. That's going to tell you their tone level, what their ethics level is. Do they have an admin scale? Do they know who they are? And their case level faster than almost anything else. Look, don't listen. Finally, respect in leadership. This is super important. LRH's admin tech, it's really clear here that you lead by ARC, not by force, not at enforced on the CDEI scale, but by no, at a minimum, curious. Curious. A
Yes.
leader who has to demand respect has already lost it. Production, who does that sound like? I'm not going to
Right.
name any names.
Right.
You need to respect me.
Right.
Uh,
It's so
production,
disrespectful. So disrespectful.
right, right. So production and competence and valuable final products and good works. Good works. What's their production record? What have they done? What good products are exchangeable across the dynamics? Raising the level of theta, raising the level of admiration the senior particle of all particles.
Yes.
Admiration. What are you being admired for? Because you've done it so well. It's inarguable. You
Right.
are you are completely without reservation or doubt getting theta.
Yes.
Ethics presence earns respect.
That's right.
Force, and this is key on the fourth dynamic right now. Force earns obedience, but only temporarily.
Mm,
Food for thought.
powerful.
Now, there's a couple more here. Respect in the current culture. Well, we live in a society running on massive disrespect. Altered importance in media, omitted data everywhere, one social interactions normalized because it sells advertising on Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, you name it, you name it. Independent Scientology, however, offers an actual technology for restoring genuine respect between beings. This is not just philosophy. This is practical application. It's your toolkit. So the bottom line here is respect is a theta quality, not a mest
Yes.
quality. The physical universe doesn't give you any respect. You know it and I know it. It's a transitive thing. It doesn't last, and everything here that's surrounding you at this moment in this podcast will someday soon be dust and reorganized into something else.
Listen, listen. They even getting rid of money now. like the funny thing about it is that as you see this world changing, please observe this. As you see this world changing, you can take a look and see where respect really is and how respect is really working in this whole thing. Even when it comes to money, money is changing, y'all. Hello, hope you get the memo. I hope you got it. Money is changing. What you thought was so important, what you thought was so powerful to hoard and to have or whatever, that's all changing. And there's going to be new types of currency. There's going to be social currency. There's going to be different ways of acquiring money and doing different things. And if you don't respect yourself enough, if you can't grant beingness enough, if you don't clear up your overs and withholds against all the things across all your dynamics, I just keep it like that. If you don't clear up your withholds across all your dynamics, baby, I'm telling you, you're gonna start to put ethics in on yourself, and it is not gonna be pretty.
Hmm.
And so with the respect is a theta quality. Please get that. And granting beingness is a theta is from a theta perspective. And when you
Exactly.
can and when you can put that in, when you can have that, the world's your oyster. You can have anything. You really can.
Right, because the theta is senior to the physical universe, matter, energy, space, and time.
Hmm.
When you raise your own theta level through study, auditing, clearing your words, oh, I don't want to study. Well, then you don't respect yourself because if you can't educate yourself, you're fucked.
Yeah. What are you doing? What's the point? What's the purpose?
Right. So when you can, respect becomes effortless, both giving it and commanding it, and accepting nothing but respect from the people that surround you. And like Quentin, what is it you say about that sort of thing?
Well, which part?
Well, as far as giving it and commanding it, what is it you always say about
Oh,
I love
I like who like me.
right,
I like who like me. I say it all the time. Now, I respect you as a being. I definitely can grant you beingness, but you can be over there.
right?
Listen.
You can admire the Emperor in Star Wars for his diabolicalness and betrayal and everything, and going, man, man, that guy, I really admire that valence of evil he's got down there, and
Oh,
you just
he
that
played it.
yeah.
Palpatine played it, boy. Palpatine played that role. Whatever
Right,
his
and you
name
just
is.
and admiration at the end of the day is as isness, because you
Right.
see it for what it is.
That's right. That's great.
So, and that's the road out. Admiration is the most senior particle there is, attention being a close second.
Mhm.
Now, at the end of all of this, what do we learn from all of this in this podcast? Respect is not something you demand. It is something you become capable of by becoming more yourself. There's no
Please.
such thing as my valence. There's only you. Who are you being? When you are acting like somebody else, you are acting like their valence that they are dramatizing from somebody else who was out of valence. That's what PTSness is.
Mm.
Okay. You can only be yourself. If you're not being yourself, well, to a certain degree, you don't have any respect for yourself and you can't have it for others. So, becoming more yourself, that's what this tech is for. And that's what we do here at AOGP. I can't put it any more simply in any more simpler terms than that.
Yeah.
So, anything you want to say before we end off?
Yeah, I just think that that really summed it up. That it's about being yourself, and it's about being yourself so truly, so immensely, so magnanimously, to the point where you get respect. I'm telling you, when you go clear, and you're not dramatizing at every conversation. So your boo try to say something to you, you say the boss say something to you at work. Everything becomes a dramatization. When you're not operating out of that reactive mind stuff, you get respect. You really do. And when you're operating from this higher perspective, when you go OT and you being so pandeterministic and you can grant beingness, you get respect. And it's such a beautiful it's such a beautiful way to live, in my opinion, because it's a way for, and I'm gonna go a little bit deeper because I like the word reverence as well. There was a book called um, the Seat of the Soul, the Seat of the Soul, and in the book he says that respect, the respect versus reverence. And when you get to a spiritual space and when you can see all beings as beings, right? Axiom one. When you can see all beings as being, you move into a state of reverence, right? And it's not about this judgmental. He said this versus he did that. Da, 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 da. It's like, yeah, I see you as a being, and I think that ultimately what we're getting across here at ALGP and what we're trying to offer to people to help them get to their own self-awareness is to be that being. Be that being that grants beingness to other beings. That's the end all. Be that being that grants beingness to other beings,
Right.
and
Now,
see
there's
and see
one
how beautiful your life looks.
exactly. There was one other thing I wanted to point out as regards the data series. And LRH, when you're doing evaluations, you look at outpoints and plus points in a situation that is a departure from the ideal scene. What are the plus points? What are the outpoints of the existing scene? So, outpoints is disrespect, omitted data, for example. Withholding information from someone is disrespectful. You're denying them the ability to evaluate.
Yeah.
Super, super important. Altered importance is making the trivial seem vital and the vital seem trivial. This is how propaganda works. It disrespects the audience's intelligence. They think you dumb.
Hmm.
Wrong source. Attributing something to the wrong cause. It is your fault when it is not. That is disrespect weaponized. We see that all the time planetarily on the fourth dynamic. Contrary facts, holding two contradictory positions. The person who says they respect you while acting against your interests is running contrary facts. That's where look, don't listen comes from.
Yeah.
Added inapplicable data, noise added to confuse. If you can't dazzle them with brilliance, baffle them with bullshit and omitted data. Okay? So the person who buries truth in complexity to prevent understanding does not respect you. Well, that's planet Earth at large in the society that we live in. Miseducation is a prime example of that, or de education. Now, the plus points to add it on the positive side of the dichotomy, related facts known, taking the time to actually understand someone's situation before evaluating. AOGP sees this all the time. That is respect. Okay. We're putting it out there by doing these podcasts, taking time production, creating art and everything. We're putting this out there and we're not charging a dime for it. Actually, we're at a net negative for doing this in a bunch of ways because we want the
Mhm.
facts to be known of what LRH put out there while it's basically being buried by the corporate Church of Scientology slowly so that you can't see it. That's our job here is to educate you as best we can and give you real life examples. Time, place, form, and event is a plus point. Getting the specifics right, not generalizing, not assuming. Precision is a form of respect.
I love that. Being precise.
Being precise. Correct relative importance. Knowing what matters and treating it accordingly.
Hmm.
So, a civilization basically that does not respect data, which this one doesn't, is a civilization that cannot evaluate situations. We find ourselves embroiled in a war that we very likely can't win, but there's a bigger game afoot. Okay. And that bigger game afoot is the shades of night that LRH talks about in PDC lecture 23. Technology will be used, can and will be used against you, and the revolution will not be televised. And that is what is happening here. You have to do your own due diligence. And correct relative importance, knowing what matters and treating it accordingly. So it's really important to the current media landscape. You look at it through that lens and you don't take anything for granted. Do your own due diligence, do your own research. And your own research means getting trained on this information. Okay. That's super important because if you don't know the data, you're going to be the adverse effect of that information. And that's why we're here.
Hmm.
We care. God damn it, we care. And I want all of our listeners to understand this. We wouldn't be here if we didn't care. LRH wouldn't have been here. And if he didn't care, he wouldn't have written everything he did. And thank God he did, that we have it to operate off of now. Because if you didn't have that information, we didn't have that information, we wouldn't be here right now relaying it to you as we do. So for Quentin and myself, we hope this has been illuminating and you can think with it. Listen to the podcast again if you need to. Try Axiom AI out at ao-gp.org. It's up at the top in the menu. Click on it. Go in and give it a spin and do the mirror, which is our first module out of 5 modules in the Be Do Have series. And you will see there is a road out.
Yes.
And we want you to experience that for yourself. And we're putting it here for everybody, just like LRH said. The work is free, keep it so. But we got to keep the lights on too. But it's pennies for diamonds. Try Axiom AI out. You'll see what the potential is there. It's gonna make you think. You're going to have to do the lifting, but it's comfortable. It's intelligent. It understands you. It has TRs. That's what it's there for. Try it out. Namaste, and we love you. Bye bye.
Peace.